Hi, welcome to The Drama Coach. In this video, I am going to chat about on-set and some off-set terminology for film sets. So in recent months, Lacey and I have been on some sets filming, and I thought I'd share some of the terminology that we've come across. So from moving from theatre to film, I got all excited and thought, oh, I better Google what these terms mean that I might hear on set. And I watched a couple of videos on YouTube and got a little bit of a sense of, oh yes, I've heard that before, I know what this means. There wasn't really anything that surprised me, but I think perhaps some of the orders in which the words might be used or the ways in which they're used was a little different to what I'd expected. And for Lacey, who's only 9, she was 8, I think, on her first film set, she hadn't heard these terms before. Luckily, I was working with her, so I could sort of whisper to her and help her. And the whole thing was a learning experience. And she will recognise these terms in the future. But I think if you're going on set for the first time, these are some of the ones that you might need to know and some of the ways in which they might be used. So, obviously, I was expecting to hear rolling when the camera's rolling. Again, it comes from using original film. These days, it's digital usually. So it's just sort of meaning that the camera is on. You might hear speed as well, but again, that comes from using film, but it means it's at speed, but with the digital, it means they're ready. So you've got rolling, you've got speed, sound. So sound will say, yeah, sound is ready by saying the word sound. And I'm guessing you're familiar with the clapperboard. I should have brought mine for a prop, shouldn't I? The clapperboard and the word action. However, especially with younger performers, they tend to hear that clap when the director or whoever's reading out the clapperboard, scene this, take that, not the bands, scene 1, take 2. And I think in memes and other things, we've seen people shouting action and clapping the clapperboard at the same time. But in reality, this often doesn't happen at the same time. You get the clapperboard to say the scene's rolling, and especially in student films or smaller budget films where people sort of, the person who's doing the clapperboard then needs to sort of get over and do something else, we'd find action would sometimes be a little bit after the clap. So in some high budget stuff, perhaps action and the clapper are at the same time. But in our experience, starting with student films and smaller budget productions, we found that you would get the clapperboard, but action wasn't necessarily called straight after. You might have had to wait a few beats before you heard action. So it's important not to just sort of jump into action at the clapperboard. The director often also wanted just a beat or two even after action, so it's easier for them to cut together. So that was something new for us. We were expecting the clap and action to be at the same time, and in our projects that we've done so far, it wasn't. So be aware of that. So you know what a clapperboard is, that's this one. We've got rolling, we've got action. Okay, what else did we come across? Some sets use this more than others, the idea of 10-1 or 10-2. If you need to go and use the bathroom, 10-1 for a short one, 10-2 rhymes with something else. There we go. You can use those or not, it's up to you. Lacey quite enjoyed shouting 10-1 and sort of running off for a moment. If the director said yes, it's fine for her to go. So yes, there's 10-1 and 10-2, but again, in some sets, it's just someone say, oh, can I pop to the loo, the toilet, the bathroom? Yes, okay. Again, it depends on who you're working with. Other terms, let me check my notes. Yes, you probably hear mic or being mic'd up, and boom. So you've got your big boom mic that might sit above a scene, sometimes covered in a furry, I think they're actually called dead cat. I hate that phrase. I have one for my mic in a furry bit. So you've got the boom mic usually on a long stick. Personally, I'm very grateful for people wanting to hold that long stick for hours on end. So I would not enjoy that job at all. I think my arms would be shaking. So you've got that type of mic, but then you've usually got your lapel mics as well, depending again on the way in which this is being filmed. And you're usually mic'd up so that it can't be seen, it might be taped to you. So mic up is to get your mic on and ready. Wrap, we hear that's a wrap at the end when everybody's finished for the day. I think that was a new one on Lacey. Striking, now this was a new one on me in terms of how it was used. So the DOP in one of the projects, DOP, Director of Photography, if you need that one. So the DOP on one of the projects would shout striking before he lit a bright light, just to warn us not to look directly into that light because he was about to strike the light. It made me think of sort of striking a match to start something off. But this was confusing for me, having come from theatre, where striking the set meant taking it down, taking it away. So I did a little Google and a little check, and to strike is also used for a film set to take the set down. So this is a little confusing. So you might hear striking for the light. Someone else said to me that's quite an old-fashioned term and it's not used as much anymore. Nevertheless, it was used and I didn't let it show, but it confused me for a moment. Actually, I probably did let it show, probably asked a load of questions because I'm just inquisitive and want to learn and want to share with other people. So striking was used in that instance to say a bright light's being switched on, whereas striking is also used at the end of a theatre production and at the end, apparently, of a film set to strike down and take away the set, maybe move it to another location. So that was striking. That was interesting for me. What else have we heard? Oh, you might hear AD for assistant director. I'm guessing by now you know what a director is because you're probably working with them. And a new one on me. This wasn't specifically on set, but this was for a project I was going to be doing. I had a form through called the DOOD. I thought, oh, that's exciting. What's this? This dude, as I was calling it. It's days on of days. Days on of days. And it was a big spreadsheet type document, the characters' names, the days in which the filming's happening. And it was brilliant. It was so clear to see when you were working. You'd have a SW for that. Again, I had to work these out. I had a little look with the SW and the W and the FW. So you have SW for start work. So you can clearly see this date is the first day in which I start filming for this project. Then you have a W if you're working on the other days. So you have a W on each day that you're in. And then an FW for finish work. And then I noticed some other people had SWF. I was like, what's that? Well, it's start, work and finish. If you're just in for one day, then that day is your start and your finish. And it saves you scrolling through the rest of the dates, working out if you're in or not. I've been on some projects and I don't know if I'm in or not, and I'm double checking and bothering the director. With this DOOD sheet, it was so clear as to when each actor had to be in, and then they can plan that and make sure they don't get any conflicts. Conflicts was actually a fairly new term to me. I would have called it clashes. So to make sure that you don't take a project that is happening at the same time as the dates you're already supposed to be in for a particular project. So the dude, as I was calling it, I don't know if anybody calls it that. I'd love to know. So the DOOD helps you prevent having any conflicts. Just two others to add to the on-set terminology. First one is cut. And you've probably heard this. Again, you've probably seen it used in examples. And cut. Cut is where you cease acting for that take of that scene. Always keep acting up until cut, because the director might intentionally hold off from shouting cut just to see what happens. Is there more in that scene? Is there a nice lingering moment? What have you? So always keep acting until you hear the word cut. And also, checking my notes again, mark. You may have marks that you need to hit. These are often taped on the floor, often in a T shape to sort of pop your feet in or on that T. Sometimes just a line. Sometimes when we were working outside, we had some marks that were trying to be organic. So we were switching from wide shots to more close shots. And these marks we were popping down sticks and things before the shooting started so that we knew, especially when we were walking up to them, where we needed to stop. Of course, you don't want to look down at your mark. You need to just get familiar with where it is, how many steps it takes, etc., to just naturally look like you're approaching the camera or the person or whatever it is you need to be approaching, rather than looking for your mark to hit. Your mark could be, it might not necessarily be taped or marked on the floor. It could be something within the room. For example, a director said to me, okay, you need to, this is your mark, is here in line with the freezer. So to keep walking till I knew I was in line with the freezer, and then, you know, do whatever action was necessary there. So it might not necessarily be a physical mark when somebody says you need to hit your mark. It's often a physical mark on the floor, but it might not necessarily be that. Any tips for that? Like I said, you can sometimes sort of count the steps, almost choreograph how you get there. Hopefully the more you do this, the more natural it feels, and it feels like you stop thinking about where you need to be, because that is just ingrained in you, and you're actually thinking about living the action and living the emotion and saying the lines that you are saying as if your character is saying them for the first time, which can be tricky when you do take after take after take. To try and stay, first of all, you need that continuity. You need to do it the same way, unless the directors ask you to do it a little bit differently. Whatever you're doing with your hands, etc., has to stay the same. And then secondly, making it feel like it's the first time that your character is saying these things and that they are thinking it as they say it. So yeah, it's a lot to think about there. It's just sort of chucking in a bit of acting technique with your terminology. I hope using those terms is useful for you. I'd love to know if people are using these terms on the sets that you're on. I would love to know if you want me to find out the definitions of any others. And I will absolutely create another video when we've been on set some more and have come across some other terms and acronyms that we can share with you. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye.